There will be moments in your life when silence will feel like surrender, when your heart will beg you to speak, to defend, to prove that you are not what they say you are. But listen carefully, because not every battle is meant to be fought with words. Some battles are won in the quiet, in the steady refusal to react, in the unshaken decision to walk forward without explaining your existence to those who never intended to understand it. Tonight, I invite you to discover a different kind of power, the kind that does not shout, does not argue, does not chase approval, but stands firm, calm, and unbothered, knowing that peace is far more valuable than being heard. Silence is often mistaken for absence, for fear, for a lack of courage, but that is only because the world has grown too comfortable with noise. We are taught from an early age that to be heard is to be powerful, that the loudest voice wins, that the quickest response proves intelligence. But life, in its deeper wisdom, reveals something far more profound. True strength does not rush to defend itself. It stands steady and rooted, needing no applause to confirm its worth. There is a quiet kind of courage that lives within those who choose not to react. It is the courage to trust oneself without seeking validation, to remain composed when misunderstood, and to hold dignity even when others attempt to pull you into their chaos. This silence is not empty. It is full of self-respect, full of awareness, full of a calm knowing that not every opinion deserves a seat at your table. You will encounter people who test your patience, who provoke your emotions, who expect you to respond so they can feel powerful in your reaction. And in those moments, it may feel unnatural to remain still, to resist the urge to explain your side of the story. But understand this, reacting gives them control over your peace, while silence keeps that power firmly in your hands. The strongest person in the room is not the one who speaks the most, but the one who knows when speaking is unnecessary. Silence is also a form of clarity. When you stop reacting, you begin to see situations as they truly are, not through the lens of heightened emotion. You recognize what deserves your attention and what does not. You learn that some words are not meant to be answered, some behaviors are not meant to be corrected, and some people are not meant to be convinced. And in that realization, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of constant defense. There is dignity in restraint, a quiet elegance in walking away without needing the final word. It does not mean you are weak. It means you are wise enough to protect your energy. It means you understand that your value does not decrease just because someone fails to see it. And more importantly, it means you refuse to shrink yourself into arguments that do not serve your growth. So let them speak if they must. Let them question, assume, and misunderstand. Your silence will not diminish you. It will define you. It will show that you are grounded enough to remain unshaken, mature enough to rise above unnecessary conflict, and strong enough to choose peace over pride. And in that choice, you will discover that silence is not something you fall into. It is something you rise into again and again until it becomes your quiet, unbreakable power. There will always be voices around you, some loud, some subtle, some wrapped in concern, others sharpened with judgment. And if you listen too closely to all of them, you will begin to lose the sound of your own truth. Not every voice that calls your name is meant to guide you. And not every opinion that reaches your ears is worthy of your response. Some words are not spoken to understand you, but to disturb you, to pull you out of your center and into a space where you feel the need to defend what was never meant to be questioned. It takes wisdom to recognize the difference. You must learn to pause, to observe, to ask yourself whether a response will bring clarity or simply create more noise. Because there are people who do not seek conversation, they seek reaction. They measure their influence not by truth, but by how quickly they can move you, how easily they can make you abandon your calm. And when you answer every voice, you unknowingly give each one authority over your peace. But you are not here to be controlled by every passing opinion. You are not here to explain your heart to those who have already decided not to understand it. There is a deep kind of freedom in realizing that you can hear something and still choose not to carry it with you. You can be aware without being affected, present without being pulled in. And in that space, you begin to reclaim yourself. Not every criticism is constructive, and not every question deserves an answer. Some people speak from their own insecurities, projecting their fears onto your life. If you respond to every such voice, you will find yourself constantly adjusting, constantly defending, constantly trying to fit into expectations that were never yours to meet. And in doing so, you slowly drift away from who you truly are. There is strength in discernment, in knowing when to speak and when to remain still. It is not about ignoring everything, but about choosing wisely what deserves your attention. When you stop responding to every voice, you create room for the ones that truly matter, the voices that uplift, that challenge you with sincerity, that add value instead of taking it away. Your energy becomes focused, your mind becomes clear, and your path becomes your own again. And so, when the world grows loud, when opinions come rushing toward you like a storm, remember that you do not have to answer all of them. You can stand firm, grounded in who you are, and let the unnecessary noise pass by without touching you. Because your peace is too valuable to be traded for constant reaction, and your voice is too powerful to be spent on those who were never truly listening. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from always trying to prove yourself, a heaviness that settles in your spirit when you feel the need to explain your worth to every doubtful eye. It begins subtly, with a single moment where you feel misunderstood, and before you know it, you are caught in a cycle, trying harder, speaking louder, giving more of yourself just to be seen correctly. But the truth is, the more you try to prove your value to the wrong people, the further you drift away from your own sense of peace. Peace does not ask you to perform. It does not demand that you gather evidence of your worth or stand in defense of who you are. It simply invites you to be, to exist fully, confidently, without the constant pressure of validation. And yet, so many lose this peace in the pursuit of being understood by those who have already chosen their perspective. You cannot force clarity into closed minds, and you cannot find rest while constantly standing on trial in the court of other people's opinions. There is a deep strength in letting go of the need to prove anything at all. It is the moment you realize that your life is not a presentation, not a performance designed to convince an audience. Your worth was never meant to be debated. It is something you carry, something you embody, something that remains true whether it is acknowledged or not. And when you begin to understand this, something shifts within you. You stop chasing approval, and you start protecting your peace. Proving yourself often comes from a place of doubt, from the quiet fear that maybe, just maybe, you are not enough unless someone else confirms it. But peace comes from a different place entirely. It comes from self-trust, from knowing who you are without needing it to be echoed back to you. It is calm, steady, unshaken by disagreement or misunderstanding. It does not rise and fall with praise or criticism. It simply remains. There will be moments when you are tempted to explain, to list your intentions, to make others see your heart clearly. And in some spaces, that may be necessary, but not everywhere, and not with everyone. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you, not because you are unclear, but because it serves their narrative. And in those moments, choosing peace over proving yourself is not weakness, it is wisdom. So allow yourself to step back from the need to be constantly understood. Let go of the urge to correct every assumption, to respond to every doubt, to justify every decision. You do not owe the world a detailed explanation of your existence. Your life, lived with honesty and integrity, is explanation enough. And when you choose peace over proving yourself, you reclaim your energy, your clarity, and your sense of self. Because at the end of the day, peace will carry you further than approval ever could. It will steady your steps, quiet your mind, and remind you that your value is not something to be proven, it is something to be protected. There is a currency more valuable than time, more fragile than trust, and more easily wasted than words, and that currency is your energy. Every thought you entertain, every argument you engage in, every moment you spend replaying what someone said or did, it all draws from a limited reserve within you. And the truth is, many people give away this energy too freely, not realizing that what they lose in reaction, they could have invested in growth. You wake up each day with a certain amount of strength, focus, and emotional clarity, and how you choose to spend it determines the direction of your life. When you pour your energy into negativity, into proving points, into reacting to things that do not truly matter, you slowly drain yourself. You feel it in your mind, clouded with unnecessary noise, and in your spirit, weighed down by things that were never meant to stay. Not everything deserves your energy. Not every comment requires your attention. Not every situation needs your involvement. There are battles that offer no reward, only exhaustion. And yet, it is easy to get pulled in, to feel like you must respond, must defend, must engage. But wisdom teaches you to pause and ask a simple question. Is this worth my energy? Because once it is spent, you do not get it back. There is power in choosing where your energy goes. When you stop reacting to everything, you begin to conserve that power. You redirect it toward things that actually build you, your goals, your peace, your purpose. You start to notice a shift, a lightness within you, because you are no longer carrying the weight of every passing opinion or unnecessary conflict. Protecting your energy is not about being distant or uncaring. It is about being intentional. It is about recognizing that your energy fuels your life, and if you waste it on things that do not matter, you will have little left for the things that do. The dreams you hold, the growth you seek, the peace you desire, all of it requires energy, and it deserves more of your attention than distractions ever will. There will always be opportunities to spend your energy carelessly. People will provoke you, situations will test you, and emotions will rise unexpectedly. But in those moments, you have a choice. You can give in, react, and drain yourself, or you can step back, remain grounded, and preserve your strength. That choice, repeated over time, shapes the quality of your life. So be mindful of what you give your energy to. Treat it as something valuable, something worth protecting. Let it flow into what nurtures you, what strengthens you, what moves you forward. And when faced with things that only seek to take from you without giving anything in return, have the courage to walk away without reaction, because your energy is not endless, but it is powerful. And when you learn to spend it wisely, you begin to live not in constant reaction, but in quiet, steady control of your own peace. There is a subtle chain that forms the moment you react without thought. A quiet exchange where your peace is traded for a temporary release of emotion. It may feel justified in the moment, even necessary, as if your response will correct the wrong or silence the noise. But more often than not, reactions do not end negativity, they extend it. They give it space to grow, to echo, to return stronger than before. Negativity feeds on attention. It looks for movement, for emotion, for any sign that it has reached you. And when you react, even with the best intentions, you provide exactly what it seeks. A single response can turn into a cycle, a back and forth that drains your spirit and pulls you deeper into something that never deserved your presence in the first place. What could have passed like a fleeting shadow becomes a lingering weight, simply because it was given energy. It is not always easy to recognize this in the moment. Emotions rise quickly, and the urge to respond can feel almost automatic. You want to set the record straight, to defend your name, to make it clear that you will not be disrespected. But not every reaction is a form of strength. Sometimes it is an open door, an invitation for more negativity to enter, to settle, to stay longer than it ever should have. There is a different kind of strength in choosing not to engage. It is not passive, and it is not weak. It is a deliberate decision to break the cycle, to refuse to give negativity the fuel it needs to survive. When you do not react, you create a boundary that cannot be easily crossed. You send a message without words that your peace is not available for disruption, that your energy will not be used to sustain something that brings no value to your life. Over time, this choice begins to change your experience. Situations that once consumed you lose their grip. Words that once lingered in your mind fade more quickly. You begin to notice that negativity, when left unfed, often disappears on its own. It loses its power not because you fought it, but because you refuse to participate in it. This does not mean you ignore everything or accept mistreatment. It means you become selective. You learn to respond with intention rather than react out of impulse. You choose moments that truly matter, and you let go of those that do not. In doing so, you protect not only your peace, but also your clarity and your strength. Because the truth is, negativity cannot survive in a space where it is not nourished. And every time you choose not to react, you take away a piece of its power. You step out of its cycle and back into yourself, calm, steady, and in control. And in that quiet control, you discover that the less you react, the less negativity has a place in your life at all. There is a difference between ignoring and escaping, though the two are often confused. To ignore is not to hide. It is not to pretend the challenge does not exist. It is a deliberate, conscious choice to refuse to give power to what does not deserve it. To ignore is to rise above, to see clearly, to preserve your strength for what truly matters. Escaping, on the other hand, is running away from responsibility, from discomfort, from growth. One lifts you, and the other leaves you stagnant. Understanding this difference is where true strength begins. When you ignore what is unworthy of your attention, you are not avoiding life. You are choosing life on your own terms. You rise because you have decided that your energy, your focus, and your presence are too valuable to waste on things that will not build you, encourage you, or illuminate your path. You rise because you understand that engagement is not always the answer, and that power often comes in restraint. You rise because you know that sometimes the loudest statement is the one left unspoken, the action unreturned, the insult unacknowledged. It is tempting to think that ignoring is weakness, that silence is acceptance, or that leaving something alone allows it to continue unchecked. But the opposite is true. When you choose to ignore with purpose, you are asserting control over your life, your mind, and your emotions. You are not letting others dictate your reactions. You are not allowing the chaos around you to seep into your soul. You are creating a space where your clarity, your peace, and your growth can flourish. Rising through conscious ignoring requires patience and courage. It requires trusting that the universe, your life, and your own path do not need validation from every opposing voice. It asks you to hold your dignity when provoked, to carry your integrity when tested, and to act only when it serves your higher purpose. You rise because you recognize that responding to every distraction, defending yourself at every turn, or explaining your worth to everyone is a slow surrender of your power. You rise because you understand that ignoring is a tool of wisdom, not a retreat of fear. There will be those who misunderstand your silence, who mistake it for weakness or indifference. Do not be shaken. They are interpreting what they see through their own limitations, not yours. Your decision to rise by ignoring is not about them. It is about preserving your strength, your focus, and your ability to move forward unshaken. Every time you refuse to react to what is unimportant, you reinforce your commitment to yourself, to your goals, and to your peace. In choosing to ignore, you are not running away. You are stepping upward. You are not avoiding life. You are claiming it fully, with clarity, purpose, and calm. The world may not always notice, and the noise may continue, but your rise will be undeniable, because those who learn to ignore with intention discover a quiet kind of victory, the ability to focus on what elevates them, to preserve their energy for what matters, and to grow beyond what cannot touch them. Ignoring is not surrender. Ignoring is the art of rising. There are times in life when words fall short, when explanations feel empty and promises sound hollow. People will speak, argue, and declare intentions, but in the end, words alone carry little weight. Words are easy, actions are deliberate. Words can be spoken in haste, in anger, in desire to impress. Actions, however, require commitment, consistency, and courage. They are the true measure of a person, the evidence of character, the reflection of inner truth. When you live your life by actions rather than words, you begin to notice a difference, not in how others see you, but in how you see yourself. You carry less burden of expectation because you are no longer trying to convince anyone of your worth. You no longer need to explain your heart or justify your choices constantly. Your life becomes the message, and every step, every decision, every silent moment of integrity becomes proof of who you are. People will always talk. They will speculate, judge, and form opinions. Some will doubt you, some will misunderstand you, and some will even attempt to manipulate your silence into weakness. But actions cannot be misunderstood in the same way. The work you do, the way you treat others, the strength with which you rise after setbacks, all of these speak louder than any speech ever could. They reveal your true priorities, your true character, and your true power. Living by action requires patience because results are not immediate. The world is impatient, and society rewards those who speak quickly, loudly, and frequently. But those who understand the quiet power of action know that the deepest impact is often unseen at first. Growth, change, influence, they take time. A kind word offered in deed rather than promise, a responsibility fulfilled without announcement, a goal pursued without boasting. These things echo louder than any declaration ever could. It is also a kind of protection. When you act instead of speak, you remove the vulnerability that comes from over-explaining, over-promising, or over-committing. Your integrity becomes your statement. Your results become your proof. And when others see the difference between words and reality, they either recognize your strength or reveal their own inability to comprehend it. Either way, you remain untouched by false expectations or unnecessary conflict. Actions have the power to inspire silently. You may never know how deeply your quiet consistency touches someone, how your dedication encourages another, how your integrity sets a standard without a single boast. Words can fade, be forgotten, or misquoted, but action remains tangible. It can be felt, observed, and trusted. People learn not from what you claim to be, but from what you consistently demonstrate. Ultimately, choosing to let actions speak louder than words is a declaration of self-respect. It is a recognition that life is too important to be wasted on proving yourself verbally. It is a commitment to living authentically, to being accountable to yourself before others, and to allowing the world to see your truth through the work of your life. In a world obsessed with sound and attention, the quiet power of action is revolutionary. It is steady, undeniable, and forever lasting. Your words may fade, but your actions echo. Your promises may be forgotten, but your deeds remain. And when you live with this understanding, you discover that true strength is not in explaining, not in persuading, not in convincing. It is in doing. There is a place inside each of us that is sacred, a quiet space untouched by the chaos of the world, a sanctuary where our spirit can breathe, where our heart can rest, and where our mind can find clarity. This inner space is not built with walls or doors. It is created with intention, with discipline, and with the courage to guard it fiercely. To protect it is not selfish, it is necessary. For if this sanctuary is violated, your peace, your strength, and your sense of self will slowly erode, leaving you vulnerable to forces that seek to distract, diminish, or destroy you. The world will constantly press against your boundaries, asking for pieces of your attention, your time, your energy, and sometimes even your soul. Some of these pressures are unavoidable, They are the responsibilities and relationships that require genuine care, but many are unnecessary intrusions, negative opinions, gossip, envy, and criticism that serve no purpose but to unsettle you. These are the things that, if allowed, can invade your sanctuary and quietly steal your peace. Recognizing the difference between what deserves your energy and what does not is the first act of protection. Protecting your inner sanctuary requires awareness. You must learn to notice the subtle ways that negativity tries to creep in, the doubt planted by careless words, the tension brought by unnecessary drama, the exhaustion of constant comparison. These are not always loud intrusions. They often arrive softly, like shadows at dusk, until they have claimed more space than you intended to give them. Awareness allows you to recognize the threat before it settles in. It allows you to step back, to evaluate, and to decide what you will allow into your inner world. Boundaries are the walls of your sanctuary. They are invisible but firm, and they demand respect, from yourself first and from others second. Saying no, walking away, ignoring, refusing to react, these are not acts of anger or avoidance, they are acts of preservation. Every time you defend your space, you are not shrinking, you are growing, you are creating a fertile ground within yourself where clarity, peace, and focus can flourish. Your sanctuary is a place where you can reflect without fear, dream without distraction, and heal without interference. To protect your inner sanctuary also means protecting your thoughts and emotions. Do not let the opinions of others dictate how you feel. Do not allow past failures or regrets to occupy the rooms of your mind. Guard your imagination, your hope, your vision. Feed it with positivity, intention, and self-respect. Invite into your sanctuary only that which nourishes you and strengthens your character. It is here, in this sacred space, that your resilience is born, your courage grows, and your life takes shape according to your design, not the world's demands. Your inner sanctuary is your refuge in storms, your compass in confusion, and your anchor when the world grows turbulent. When you protect it, you protect yourself. You protect your dreams, your peace, your strength, and your capacity to rise above what is unnecessary, unkind, or unworthy. And in the quiet, in the calm, and in the unwavering boundaries of this sacred place, you discover the greatest truth. The world cannot touch you unless you allow it, and the power to remain unshaken has always been within you. Would you like me to continue and expand this keynote further into another 500 words, deepening the ideas about resilience and self-preservation?